Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice 9.11, and of course this is playing with Germany. In the British, they're moving across my territory here. Are my fighters going to intercept them? Those didn't. They're chasing, these guys are chasing them a bit. They're actually going for a strike. Oh, looks like we engaged them. Oh, more of them. It seems they're able to get their act together enough to catch them. Bombers here. Trying to catch them. Okay, Divisional HQs has advanced if we continue to watch that. Divisional HQs, 1940. We're going to continue with that. And we can get some more people into the Axis. Finland, yes, 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 yes. Yes, 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 Finland. That's good, get them in early, I like that. Fight to faction, very likely. Good. Good, we've got Finland in. Now we have Finland. They fought and lost the Winter War, sort of. We're getting ready for another Winter War here. In Norway. Got Japan in the Axis now. They're fight to faction. No, they're puppets of Japan, so I don't know. I know they're puppets of Japan, but I don't know. But I just sort of like to be able to see the Soviet border, if you know what I mean, get intelligence from that. Maybe I should rewrite the event. But also bring in if puppet of Japan, then have them come in. So, we're getting very near to this. Now, no, where is it? It's here somewhere. Here, we have this problem. And another person reported one of these, is sort of why I'm bringing it up, and I've had this before. The event that created Panzergroup von Kleist also didn't remove this and replace it. And since it's the last unit in a core HQ, it cannot be removed. What you need to do, and I don't know if I'll do it this episode, but sometime soon, I'll pair it with some other throwaway unit that I can just trash. Maybe that would be... I don't know. Pair it with some other unit, and then you can get it out there. Because otherwise it's sort of lost to you. You could sort of try to rebuild the core, but sort of wasted. Okay, we've been embargoed by the US of A, and Japan has annexed Siam. Okay, core historical axis. Yes, that's now because we have the previous, but we now have this now that we have Finland in, so even more effects because we already have, and I presume, full historical access. I don't think we're losing that now. Oh, we also have the core, so we have both. So we have both of these compiled, so there's a lot of benefits here. You can see this one goes behind that, comes down at the bottom there, being displayed. So we've got a lot of benefits. there. You guys are heading north here. Just might as well get them, you know, into position before we start the war. Oh. Okay, well. I haven't moved. Well, let's see, we can move some more air, some conventional units north up here. Okay. Need to build more naval air units. As I moved to here, I believe, so we want to put it here. Base and port there. I'm still flying a bunch of naval air, or some naval air in and around here. Oh, well, let's... No, not you. You. Some of these I was specifically putting just in that one port. But see, now it knows that I need to move supplies and resources back and forth there. So I had just pounding that in an attempt of dealing with any ships that came after my ships. They're still moving ships, but they're not hanging out there while invading. Like I've said before, these guys, not that they're not effective against ships, they are somewhat. They just don't spot nearly as well, and they're not as effective. So they're good additions to the area, but you do want some naval bombers and float planes as well. Okay, medium air search radar has advanced. That I believe is this one. Larger. We don't need that yet. Let's go with this one. There. Good. Don't want to get too close to any interception coming out of Britain. But we do want to have some search radius out there to go after. These guys will have really hard trouble picking up submarines. Not as hard with surface vessels. These guys here. Well, those are both naval bombers. Should be flying one big wing out here. Oh, I think that was it. Was it? Yeah. We've lost one flying boat. It did have 2 flying boats, 2 naval bombers, and the twin engine fighters, but it's lost some. Or 1 flying boat in some operation. Okay, spotting surface section. Okay, these are all getting close. I think we're mostly ready down here. Yeah, that should do it, shouldn't it? Well, one thing, I'd like to add some of these to some divisions. So we're on Kleist, maybe. Some of those commands, but what I really have to do is find those are completely filled out, completely filled out. Okay, they could do some. They could do both of those. That would probably be pretty good. Or do we want to do? That'd be alright, I guess. So, these special forces guys and former Austrian motorized units. There we go. So now they have commandos, and these guys are operating as if they're engineers, or they are. I mean, that's their sort of field, so you get better combined arms. Yeah, we'll put the where are those motorized? There they are. And Panzer Group on Kleist. It wasn't that well. I don't know what I should say. I mean, it's obviously he was an alright general, but he certainly was no Guderian or Manstein or Rommel or some of the other much better Panzer commanders. I think to a point that's why he was put in command, is because he wasn't them. They trusted him more. There's my big fleet. There's my big fleet. Okay, that should mean I could put Bismarck in with Kriegsmarine. These other lighter forces are going to the Mediterranean. But there we go. Now we have the Bismarck. This should be my biggest, heaviest ship so far. Okay, well, okay. Yeah, they're too far away from their headquarters. If I were to attach them to that command, now they're in command. With no leader there. There is a sky. Give them that. There we go. That's a good command arrangement. Okay, well these are good enough to start up here. We got Dietl at least to push against. Well, currently it doesn't look like too much here. We'll see what Sweden wants to do with all these heavy guns there. Okay, well, let's save this just in case I've somehow screwed something up or forgotten something or whatever. Okay, and we want to see if we can declare war against Sweden. Sweden, and declare war and to puppet. Yes, install oil government in Sweden. And they of course join the Allies. Take a quick look there. Okay, we gotta come through here. Okay, thought there was a pass through here. We've just can't see into there. So let's, all you guys, come up this way. If they want to make an offensive against me here, fine. Just don't care. All of their victory points are in the south. I'm just doing that for the fun up the top. Okay. Okay, Stugs. Can't go. Oh, it thinks we're going out to the sea, I think. The inlet's there. There we go. Well, we'll cross the river if we can. Mostly forested, yeah, so these bigger guys will do fairly well, I think. Across the river, need drive. Stockholm. And since you're well figured out, we'll attack you. Okay, well, there we go. Okay, well, most of you are ready to move, obviously. You aren't, but looks like you got a lot of supplies, some fuel. Totally well. Somebody we could attach that to. Core head. Oh. They could use it, so it's 38. 39. I don't know, let's get it for now. Okay, well, Schreckenberg. Okay. Now let's use. He's ready. Here. Yeah, Guderian. Oh, well, we're not at war with them yet. Well, that would be helpful, you know, of course, to declare war against them before we start moving into their territory. Conquer, we will fire those various occupation events when they become available. Okay, Daring, now you come down this way. Okay, across the river here, and down along the river. We don't really have the traffic jam problems that historically plagues the situation. We can attack with infantry. Okay, modal. Attack there. And yeah, that's a good to right through the mountains with. No, they have headquarters. Top Here we go, mountain troops. You guys want to attack there instead of attacking me out of more than one province from here. Yes, I see they've already retreated or were retreating. Here. Okay, now, well. You down to here. We want some fighter cover. I think we're going to use these long-range fighters. That early on, playing around with the IC levels, has, I always say, wrecked some of my plans for building stuff. I can just tell. So I'm definitely lower on fighters than I normally would be. Now I know a bunch of you at different times, and I don't mind you guys asking, but often my answer will be, I don't know. You ask me, how many do I need for this or that? I don't know. I'm very much of an instinctual player, so it's sort of hard for me to quantify how much. You need enough. How much is enough? I don't know. Because I just don't sit down and figure it out. No, not. What is all the ground attacking? Oh, damn. Oh no, you want to. Air intercept. Why are you ground attacking? Their air superior. But it just feels like I have a lot less functionality than I normally used to. Looks like everybody else joined in with me. Yes, Slovakia and Hungary. Okay. Yes, it looks like they've joined the war. What up? You guys get to go and occupy up here. Gonna invade Norway. Well, cool. Okay, armor piercing capped advance. Presume that's a better cap on the rounds, so well, that is now maxed out. Okay, we need to build medium velocity anti-tank gun. Medium velocity gun anti-tank. That's this page, medium velocity gun. Oh, it needs to be 3, okay. So we gotta get that up a little bit more. That's still a little too far off. But I should pay closer attention or something there. Okay, well. I'll have to wait for a bit. Okay, now that we've taken out that, varies quite a bit here. There we go. We're just going to flood. Into this. Get to clean the border up. Would be good to join with that. Oh no. Right here. No. Ah. Nope, I did it twice. Okay, there. 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 We're cleaning the border up. Right along there. Most of the motorized units are here. You guys can come in and just sort of keep your control. Oh, it's also sent out down. And that should be a fast unit as well. Unnecessary drive. Go, 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 go. Move on there. Right there. They're spotting. They're out of supplies again. Well. We're coming to help you out, Italy, as soon as we can. Okay, well, you support this attack. You support it as well. And we've won here. And how do you know we were fighting here? Okay, you can cross these rivers and the forest. And there. Yeah, they're going back. Good. Ah, Soviet Union. Yes, because we've lost all of our sales. Okay. US. Okay, you and you can both strike into. Yeah, okay. Well, defeating the Swedes, or so it looks like so far. Jaegers versus Jaegers. We're crossing the river, so that won't help. You get across the other side of the river. Flanking the bottom. Okay, we can do more research. Well, I guess it's time to start doing that. Is there a causeway here? Oh, okay, it's through here. I thought there was something if it isn't being blocked by ships. Since you've retreated from that, might as well stop going there. Hit them in the flanks. Gas ground control. Okay. Oh, oh, yeah. Don't worry, Hungarians, we're sweeping down into here. You don't have to fear the Yugoslavs. First Panzer Division. No, we're using the 1st Panzer Division. We're going to creation. We gotta do that before we defeat Yugoslavians, so we will create a puppet. I don't know why it added a bunch of units in strange places. Okay, all of you just come down to here. Anybody who isn't attacking, come down here. Oh. Bunch of you guys delayed. Nice, do some armor units. Almost. That unit that you worked on. Keep moving, guys. Well, you seem to be doing very successfully, so keep moving towards Stockholm. Okay, you're here, so now right there, right down here. You just come across the river today. Here, get moving. We're just pouring into Yugoslavia. Okay, ammunition capacity has advanced. That's on fighters, I believe, here. Good. We'll switch that over to fuel tanks. Moving forward. Okay, well, just to keep you from being there. Over the flanks. What I do need to see is where the victory points are. I'm not used to fighting. But in a way, I sort of want to defeat them and leave the army as in good shape as practical. Because that way, when we puppet them, hopefully more of those units will survive and end up helping us out. A lot of mud starts to clear, okay. that one. Gotta take this one here. And that one, and then we are done, I think, with Sweden. How close are they to falling already? Yeah, haven't taken a capital yet. And core HQs has advanced. Well, yeah, well that's finally pushing one of these. No, at least that one's been for a while. A little farther than I want at this time. But now, total of 6 hours reduced between attacks. Yay, that's what I'm looking for. Yes, you may have some supplies made up for not selling so much stuff to America anymore because they embargoed us. I guess in a way, I hope these guys sort of survive. Yes. Well, we'll further victories again. None over that way. Come down here instead. I want to take this. New industrial zone, great. That is what, yeah. And we're going to stop that. Okay, well. Greeks have showed up. Let me get in that particular fight. Okay, light escort, any aircraft type or light vessel and aircraft. Control systems. Okay, that's good. You attack me there. You pursue down. This way. Rommel's much happier right now. He gets to be part of some of the leading elements instead of stuck there. He wants to get to Athens before anybody else. We've taken out a Swedish ship. Don't know that I really want to do that, but okay. And then we're taking out that port here, or we're taking out where that port is. Obviously, we need to. We're gonna win, but battle for Stockholm is not going so well at the moment. Okay, well, you come there. Good going. Yugoslavs, monsoon starts clear. Football increases. Geiki's gonna win the race to Sarajevo. Okay, Hornet is launched. I hope so. Retrocession of Alsace-Lorraine. These provinces will be part of the Third Reich now, though they've already, for some event reason, have already gotten over to us, it looks like. But, oh, well, this is the destroy equipment. No, we want the equipment. Okay, good. That, there. That's all these things. Boy, a bunch of stuff. Oh boy, more stuff, even more stuff. Got a lot to talk about here. Okay, a lot to talk about. Get them out of the way to look here, but these are listed as foreign armor, so they're never going to get tiger tough, if you will, if you know what I mean. You know, they're not going to be able to. I don't know if they'll be able to even upgrade some of the stuff at all. You know, like, I'm not even sure that, like, I don't think they'll be able to upgrade to 3-man turret or advanced optics or whatever. I think they do get the full range of tactical, you know, things that affect doctrines, you know, and these types of, you know, bonuses, but they won't get, at least I don't think they do, technical improvements. So these are going to be soundless, you know. and that type of thing. So they're useful. They are quite useful, but not as useful as other things. So that's why they're going to become part of our occupation force here in France, which is good in that you're not wasting really good German units occupying France while invading the Soviet Union, but we're also going to be seeing more scripted invasions, and once you get to real big US invasions, they may not be able to do the job so well. So that's sort of what we need. Hitler meets with Pétain and Laval in Montier after the falling of France. Okay. Meeting with Pétain and Laval doesn't go so well, I don't think. But, so. Okay, the general government, the military administration of Poland. Okay, yes, we want that. The MBH in Frankreich, yes, we want that. Prepare the NSV for the coming air war. The National Socialist Volks Vollhart, NSV, or National Socialist People's Welfare, was a social welfare organization during the Third Reich. The NSV was established in 1933, shortly after the NSDAP took power in Germany, with 17 million Germans receiving assistance under the auspices of the NSV. By 1939, the agency projected a powerful image of caring and support. The National Socialists provided a plethora of social welfare programs under the Nazi concept of Volksgemeinschaft, which promoted the collectivity of a people's community. That is the Volksgemeinschaft is a key word in National Socialism. I can hardly stress that enough. And people's community. I don't know what a modern German, when they hear that word, people's community. But the way I understand what the Nazis were meaning by it, which, you know, when somebody hears it, doesn't necessarily mean the same thing as the person saying it. But they're really looking at creating this Volksgemeinschaft, this people's community, and it's sort of, if you will, National Socialist Germany, with all of its, like I've been stressing, anti-Christian elements, racial identity elements, social welfare, absolutely, elements, but also has the dark side of it too. We're going to euthanize, kill off all these people, and they did. They started the killings of Germans that were useless eaters of various types, mentally deficient, just mental or physically deficient, and not saying that this organization was flipping the switch on the gassing vans that were going around, or running the crematoria that they were putting the people into. But this organization, as well as others, was trying to set the Volksgemeinschaft that is an acceptable government behavior. You don't get the choice of life and death over yourself. The state gets to choose what it wants to do with people it doesn't like anymore. And so this is why I consider this to be a rather nasty agency. And I'm not trying to downplay or even make out that I don't know. I don't want to call it social welfare. That's sort of a mislabel term, in my opinion. The support elements for people in need of food, housing, whatever, isn't just a false flag or a false cover or something. That is very much a part of the organization. But that's just one side of the coin, if you will, one aspect of it. It has this dark aspect going on, this indoctrination. And indoctrination isn't necessary, but oh, trust me, they did have people sitting in classrooms with people indoctrinating people. Now, most of that was to indoctrinate the social worker, who would then go out into the community and through, if you will, community organizations, community organizers, would promote up this Volksgemeinschaft of National Socialism. And, you know, I'm not the best person to try to put all this into words, and I'm still trying to come to terms with it, which is part of it, and still trying to study it. But again, and as I've talked about in other episodes, it's always been, oh yeah, Nazis are fascist with racism, you know, with a sort of extreme racism added to it, and it's sort of dismissed as that. And in all of the movies made during pre-war and war movies made in English, the Nazi soldiers are portrayed as robots that, you know, if you order them to march off the end of a pier, they're just going to all march off the end of the pier, when absolutely that's the furthest thing from the truth. The American soldier was more likely to march off the end of a pier into the water than the German soldier, because the Germans' command structure and whole command philosophy was disobey orders, people. You're the guy on the scene. And whether that's a private, a sergeant, a lieutenant, a captain, a field marshal, there are constantly cases of, stop advancing or advance into this province. When no, they go somewhere else. They do something else. They're constantly disobeying orders, and they're not in trouble for it, because Hitler sort of kind of wants this. I order them to take the hill, and they should have the mental or the will to take that hill, and if they just will themselves, all charge up that hill, they will take that hill. And that's sort of what, and this is why I know some of you people have disagreed with me, but Hitler is a bad sort of leader in that sense. Where the German military philosophy is, well, we need to defeat the enemy. Well, maybe we should go around behind the hill and cut off the supplies to going up the hill, or something like, is to think for yourselves on the battlefield much more so. And this is at the small unit tactics, or at the corps level. They are, Hitler likes map boards, and Hitler, because you'll see a bunch of the events that have him, he's with his generals, and they're looking at the maps, and with all the unit symbols on the maps, what we're doing here in this game, of course. He loves that kind of stuff, and this is the way he runs his war. But the generals themselves know that the way the real war is being run is tactically out here. It's not being commanded from whatever Wolf's Lair or other Eagle's Eyrie or whatever. It's really being commanded out here, and that's the way it should be. So, get back to sort of the point is National Socialism in the English written world, because I have consumed a lot of over the years, and going way back, because you look at the old, and it's a great series. If you haven't watched it, you should. The World at War, and which is dealing with World War II. It's the one with sort of the flames and the haunting music at the start of it. That was some of my earliest introductions, really, to sort of World War II and history, history of World War II, more than just some movies, that, watching, Where Eagles Dare, or Kelly's Heroes, or whatever it might be, The Longest Day or something, but really sort of systematically looking at things. And that really, I'm sure, still to this day, shapes my ideas of World War II, though, of course, I've read beyond it. But that itself is being narrated by Laurence Olivier, the famous actor, and who was very much of the war generation being fought in Britain. So, you know, so that's, I don't know exactly who produced that, but I'm pretty sure that's a British perspective of the war, heavily. And so I've always consumed a lot of, you know, the English perspective, including movies made during the war, made immediately after the war, and then of course the American perspective. That's, you know, and so in the American, they just never really tackled what National Socialism is, and I think a lot of the sort of big thinkers, top-level thinkers, really didn't know what it was. They just saw it was militaristic, it was conquering, it was a dictatorship, and then later, and it didn't like Jews. That's sort of what they saw, and that was bad enough for them, and they didn't need to try to understand it beyond that. And so they just stopped trying to understand it past that. And so it's gotten lumped in with fascism, and I'm trying to come to terms with what it was. And clearly, in looking at it, there is no one book, because even, you know, Mein Kampf isn't a comprehensive National Socialist ideology booklet or book. It's sort of Hitler's telling his story and what he sort of wants, but it isn't a, you know, a comprehensive, this is what we believe, you know, kind of book. This isn't a you know, a well-written treatise on National Socialism. So, and so it means different things to different people, including high-ups. But if you look at people like Robert Ley and trying to stay away from some of the cliche types, Frank, you know, the guy who takes over the general government, Poland, and others. These are all occultists who have a deep history of the occult movement, particularly in Bavaria, but maybe a bit larger in Southern Catholic Germany. And these are the main leading thinkers within National Socialism. And so what its face to the public may very much want to look like, hey, we're getting food parcels for people in need, you know, and the winter help relief for people, you know, so they have coal for their fires in winter, and they have food for the winter, and people, you know, live through the winter well. That's part of it, but that's the sort of nice face. You think any of these groups delivered any sort of food parcels to any sort of Jewish families ever? Once they're listed as Jewish families? I mean, you know, before the war? No. And there's that sort of kinds of ostracization of people. Some are sort of obvious in that they're Jews, but there's many other shades of stuff. If you're not the right type of person, if you're, you know, you haven't joined the party, you're a former communist, or you're claimed to still be a communist, or whatever it is, if you're not some of these right types of people, you don't get the aid. You know, so it's not just for people in need, it's for the right people in need. And so that's some of the stuff, but that's sort of its, you know, friendly face even then. And that's what I'm trying to come to understand. Not the hidden meaning. This isn't some sort of you know, UFOs or aliens behind Nazis hiding what. No, this is just sort of what they sort of wrote amongst themselves and talked amongst themselves, and sort of if you were interested in finding out about it, it wouldn't be that hard, because there are all kinds of occult elements going on, but it wasn't on the cover of every other magazine. It wasn't on the headlines of all the newspapers. It wasn't being broadcast on all of the radio programs as an open thing. It was sort of a subtle undermining of values. It starts before the war, gets more during the war. This cult of death, and that's another element that the Nazis really promote up, this cult of death, and they really sort of through death you'll have everlasting life, kind of thing. But it isn't life as in going to heaven. in living afterwards, like the Christian idea. It is your everlasting life is the generations beyond, going down beyond. You're not necessarily as it is necessarily, because it is, again, there's different thinkers within this. And if you start looking at some of the stuff, and again, I'm not the best person to say all this, I'm sorry, but it's sort of like you die for the Fuhrer, you die for the fatherland now, but you live on through the continuation of the fatherland and through it. And this sort of cult of death grows up very heavy within the SS. But also they spreads to the army and through the National Socialists and other things. There's a very much death cult in this, but it's sort of a samurai-like death, that you're, a glorious death. That through that glorious death you'll live forever, but not going to a heaven, but it's sort of like your memory, or the memory of you will live on, and even if not you specifically, but through the war generation. And a lot of this gets tied into coming out of World War I, and all the dead that died through World War I is brought in through this. And then once World War II gets started, they're sort of added to it. So it's this weird sort of death cult going on. And what this NSV and other groups are promoting, these types of thoughts. So I'm trying to explain it to you. I'm sorry I'm not the best. I wish I was better at some of this. But part of it is just because I don't have... Well, one, I do know that there's different thinkers thinking different things. But so long as you were you had to espouse the general views and espouse support for National Socialism but once you're within that, then you can have conflicting views and sort of work it all out, because there wasn't one guy, even Hitler, that this is the way it is and you have to follow it. It's more like, as long as you're on board with the program, we can sort of work out the details of the program as we go along. And so with some of the studies and research that I've done, it's, this guy may say this and some other guy says something else, and it's not just the same. So okay, let's continue here. I know. With the start of the war, the role of the NSV grew rapidly in size and mandate. As the NSDAP organization, the NSV became one of the main instruments to guide through many aspects of daily life and permanently instruct the German population during times of war. While the civilian defense during the air war was put under the authority of the Reich Air Ministry, the NSDAP through the NSV took charge of the public and the population during the air raids. The NSV deployed its resources to react with emergency measures to supply the affected population with ready provisions and organize relocation of bombing victims to other parts of the Reich. Okay. So yeah, but again, back to the Volksgemeinschaft. That's a very, very important element within, as I'm coming to learn, something that is never hardly been talked about in many of the stuff. That Volksgemeinschaft is what they're trying to create, trying to mold. And if you look again, and I want to refer to it because it's, if you, I figure most German viewers have watched it, just because if you're interested in history in this time period, is Babylon Berlin. I think it was done just a really well made thing, but it's also a really good look at Weimar society. But if you look at that, you see, and they don't overemphasize it, but you sort of see the chaos maybe of the society, of radically different conflicting views within society is going on. And some of it is sort of the political, and I'm very glad that because especially it was set in 29, and it's set in Berlin, and in 29 there's a lot of Nazis in Berlin, but it isn't, as core as say Munich or whatever, which is going on. And Berlin was sort of known as Red Berlin, even with regarding to the Nazis as being sort of left. The communists are the big thing at the time in 29 in Berlin still. And so, but you're seeing the social conflicts, the different societies' viewpoints, and they're all, well, maybe they're all German in a way. Some of the interesting reviews of some of the stuff, but they're all sort of conflicting, and are you a leveling communist type person, or are you an elitist? Because the basic sort of bad guy Germans are really mostly authoritarian, Kaiser wanting to return type guys. They're don't want to spoil too much, but they're sort of to some degree the bad guys, not Nazis. These are the people that support Hindenburg or want to get the Kaiser back kind of thing. And so these are the old order type Germans, that want a hierarchical society where the communists want everyone's equal society. So it may all still be very German in culture, but it's all in very different ways, and some of it's a party culture extreme, and that was sort of Berlin and was sort of an extreme party culture, but they're doing a lot of that kind of stuff, but they're also, you see bits of their sort of I don't know if early green movement's the right term, but sort of early Whole Foods, early organic kind of movement, and back to the countryside type movements. You see some of those elements that are brought up, and they're not like in a documentary where they go in and explain all this, but you just sort of see see some of the reflections, and so you're getting this sort of fractured society, I guess would be a good time element, and this is what is going on in the 20s and in the 30s up until 34, because yes, Hitler as Reich's Chancellor comes to power in 33 and does that first big nighttime parade, which no one sort of notices about, and then about 2 weeks later they do the parade again with all the cameras rolling, and so the fire parade torches, but they do that the very first night, and it was just fine, but they it was put together in hours, but they redo it and then put it have it filmed. And it's sort of like the big, Hitler's in power, the Nazis, the Nazis are in power. Yeah, he's chancellor. And Goering's Speaker of the Parliament. But Hindenburg is still the president. And the vice chancellor is von Papen. And he only has 1 or 2 other members in the cabinet other than Hitler at the time. So it's still not, within the, and the Nazis are the largest party at the time, but they're not yet the majority party. And they've, and fairly quickly we have the Reichstag fire, which then starts banning other parties. But that takes a while to happen. So, it's a while before this fractured society is coming together, and that's what this Volksgemeinschaft, this people's community, is forming, and it is a cultural revolution, and it needs to be looked as such. So that's important. Okay, we're gaining popularity in NSV until the end, minus supplies, but reduces consumer goods during war times need, and ruling party support. Okay, great. Yes, was formed October in France. Okay, yes, we'll take that. See Deedle. Hopefully we don't lose Deedle as commanding his unit. Anti-air demonstration units in Romania. In September 1940, the Romanian government noticed the lacking of air defenses in Ploiești and asked the German government to send a military mission to Romania. Together with modern weapons and military instructors, on October 10th, 1940, the German Luftwaffe missions, consisting of anti-air units and some interceptors, commanded by Wilhelm Spendel, arrive in Ploiești with the sole purpose of defending the city and its oil refiners. What am I looking at here? And that's an anti-aircraft gun, I know. Machine gun ammo belts. I'm not sure what I'm looking at there. Now, this sort of reminds me, I've sort of covered all of these with a series of events that are really nice in Third Reich events for Hearts of Iron 4. I went into this, to the Romanian element, much heavier than what I did in this. And so, yes, they were definitely doing this. So, very good revolver held, I believe. So, 2,000 supplies. Gives us improved anti-air, particularly over, let's see here. Good. That's very good. That'll keep them pesky allies out. German military assessment mission in Libya. Okay, good. Desert unit training. Unfortunately, I think, let's just check this out. I think we've already got desert unit training, but, well, would have been nice. Get that earlier. We just pushed ahead. The 99th Lich Division, great. And we have a bunch of upgrades, create, and whatnot. We're going to mostly wait until we get done crushing. I think we're going to try the Herbs Division. Let's see. Creation of, I'm hoping that doesn't take away from current units. No, it doesn't look like it could. Some of those other ones may be also just create, but we'll put that up top. We're getting through these now rather quickly. And on that note, I want to end the episode here. I want to thank you all for watching. I want to thank you for liking the videos. I really do appreciate that. And of course, please post questions, comments, suggestions, ideas, corrections. Love hearing from you. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.